The first splash sounded wrong. Not like a dive, not like an accident. It sounded like someone had been thrown away. My name is Colette. I am 58 years old, and I have spent my whole life as a high school counselor in Rhode Island, teaching other people's kids how to spot danger, how to trust their gut, how to leave before it gets worse. And yet, at exactly 12:03 a.m., I watched my own daughter disappear into the Atlantic like a secret nobody wanted to keep. We were on my son-in-law's yacht, the Meridian, anchored a few miles off Block Island. A floating palace, white leather, glass railings, soft jazz that never stopped. The kind of night where rich people laugh too loud because they are used to the ocean and the world obeying them. My daughter Waverly was 4 months pregnant. She had been glowing all evening, one hand drifting to her stomach like she was reminding herself it was real. She wore a deep green dress that hid her bump from strangers, but not from the people who mattered, especially not my son-in-law, Griffin. Griffin was charming in the way men are charming when they want you to stop asking questions. Clean hair, perfect teeth, polite words that never matched his eyes. His father, Callahan, was worse. Callahan ran a private equity firm that bought struggling companies and fixed them, meaning he gutted them and called it leadership. He wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. The whole deck shifted around him like gravity. All evening I kept catching them watching Waverly. Not with love, with math. At dinner, Griffin barely touched his food. Callahan kept leaning in to whisper. Griffin would nod, then look toward my daughter, then away, as if looking too long might make her real. And my daughter kept trying anyway, smiling, asking if they wanted coffee, asking if the music was too loud, making herself small because that is what women do when men like that decide you are a problem. Around midnight, the guests drifted below deck, drunk and full, chasing dessert and gossip. The air outside had that sharp bite of late September, and the water was black and restless, slapping the hull like it was impatient. Waverly came back from the restroom and stood beside me near the port rail. Her cheeks were flushed from the warm interior, her eyes bright. I told him today, she whispered, like it was a confession. Before we came, my throat tightened, and she hesitated. That hesitation was everything. He said, okay, that was it, just okay. She forced a laugh. Maybe he was shocked. I stared out into the dark water. Sweetheart, shocked men don't look like they're calculating a bill. Her smile faded. Mom, please, not tonight. Then Griffin's voice sliced through the night. Waverly, come here. He was at the stern with Callahan, near the lower railing where the yacht's lights didn't reach as well. The shadows back there were thicker. The ocean sounded louder. Waverly glanced at me, then started walking, like a good girl called to the principal's office. I followed 2 steps behind. I told myself I was being dramatic. I told myself it was a conversation, a marriage thing, not my business. But my stomach was already falling. Griffin didn't wait for her to arrive. He leaned toward her and said something low. Waverly's face changed instantly. Her shoulders tensed. She shook her head. No, she said louder. I'm not doing that. Callahan moved closer. Not aggressive, just blocking like a door closing. Griffin's hand snapped out and grabbed her wrist. I felt my body go cold. Let go of her, I said. Griffin didn't even look at me. This is between us. Waverly tried to pull back. Griffin, you're hurting me. Callahan's voice was calm, almost bored. Don't make a scene on my boat. Waverly's eyes flashed with something I hadn't seen in months. Anger. Finally. I'm pregnant, she said, sharp. I'm not lying, I'm not trapping anyone. I am carrying your child. Griffin's mouth twisted, like the word child tasted bitter. You think I don't know what you're doing, he said, louder now. You show up with a bump and suddenly you have leverage. Waverly's voice shook, but she didn't back down. Leverage? Griffin, I'm your wife. That is when I saw it. The tiny look Griffin gave his father. The look men give when they want permission. Callahan's jaw flexed once. He nodded. My heart started pounding so hard, I could hear it over the ocean. Stop, I said. You are not touching her like this. Callahan finally looked at me. His eyes were pale, empty. Colette, you've always been emotional. This isn't your place. I stepped forward anyway. I reached for my daughter's arm, and Griffin moved first. It was so fast it didn't register as violence at first. One shove. Then another, like they were moving furniture. Waverly's heels slipped on the deck. Her back hit the railing. Her eyes found mine, wide and terrified, and in that half second I saw the truth. She had realized it too late. Mom, she gasped. Then she was gone. Her scream cut off when she hit the water. I ran to the rail so hard my hip slammed into it. I leaned over, searching, waiting to see her surface, waiting for her to grab air, waiting for anything. But the ocean swallowed her like It was used to taking things. I turned on Griffin with a sound that wasn't even words. I shoved his chest. "What did you do?" He stumbled back, annoyed, like I had spilled a drink. Callahan adjusted his cuff, steady as a man signing paperwork. "She's being dramatic," he said, like my daughter had thrown herself into the sea to make a point. I reached for the life ring mounted near the stern. Griffin stepped in front of me. "Don't," he said. I looked at him and saw something I will never forget. Not rage, not fear, relief, like a problem had been removed. My hands shook as I shoved past him, tore the ring free, and hurled it into the darkness. It vanished, a small circle against a huge black mouth. "Waverly," I screamed. "Waverly." Nothing. The yacht's music still played, faint and cheerful. The world kept pretending. I pulled out my phone with numb fingers and dialed 911. My voice cracked as I gave coordinates, as I begged, as I tried not to picture my daughter's lungs filling. Behind me, Griffin laughed. Actually laughed. "She'll pop up," he said. "She always does. She loves attention." I spun toward him so fast my vision blurred. "She is 4 months pregnant." Callahan sighed like I was exhausting him. "If she was smart, she wouldn't try to force a man into fatherhood." My breath turned to ice. Force. I stared at them and suddenly I understood the true shape of this family. They didn't see women as people. They saw women as risk, as liability, as paperwork that could be erased. The deck doors opened. A couple of guests stumbled out, confused, drawn by my screaming. Someone gasped. Someone said, "What happened?" Griffin's voice became polished instantly. "My wife jumped in," he said smoothly. "She's upset about something. She does this." My brain screamed. He is rewriting it already. He is building the story while she is dying. I grabbed the rail again, scanning the water, calling her name until my throat burned. Minutes passed, then more. The cold wind cut through my dress like needles. I didn't feel it. I felt only the ticking of time, each second another theft. Quick real-life pause. When I am up late listening to machines beep and thinking about how one decision can erase an entire future, I get tired. And your comments are what keep me going. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me your city, state, or country. All right, now let me take you back. Because the worst part is, the ocean wasn't the first place they tried to throw my daughter. 6 months earlier, Waverly had shown up at my house with a folder in her purse and a strange, flat look on her face. "Griffin wants me to sign something," she said. I remember the sunlight coming through my kitchen window, warm on the table, the smell of coffee, the normalcy of it. And then she slid the folder toward me. A post-nuptial agreement. Thick, crisp, cold. I read the first page and my stomach tightened. There were clauses about assets, about confidentiality, about behavior, and one line that made my hands shake. If a pregnancy is determined to be non-marital in origin, all spousal claims are forfeited. "What is this?" I asked. Waverly swallowed hard. "His father says it protects the family." "From what?" Her eyes filled, but she blinked fast like she had been trained not to cry. "From me." That was when I knew she was living with quiet cruelty. The kind that doesn't leave bruises. The kind that leaves you doubting your own reality. I told her not to sign. She didn't. She promised me she wouldn't, but she stayed with him anyway. Because love makes you rationalize what should make you run. And now I was standing over black water, realizing love had almost gotten her killed. The Coast Guard arrived with lights that sliced through the night like judgment. Their voices were clipped, professional, urgent. They threw their own rings, scanned, called out. Griffin and Callahan had gone inside by then. Not to help, to plan. I heard Callahan on the phone through the open door, calm as a man ordering dinner. "It was an accident. Yes, she's unstable. Yes, we will cooperate." Cooperate. Like my daughter was a broken appliance. Time stretched. The searchlight swept. The ocean kept moving. I started whispering instead of screaming. Like my voice had finally broken into smaller pieces. "Please," I said to nobody. "Please, please." Then a shout from the Coast Guard boat. A different tone. Tight. "We've got her." My body almost gave out. My knees hit the deck. They hauled Waverly up in a rescue basket. Her skin looked wrong. Blue-gray. Her hair plastered to her face. Her lips purple. And when they lifted her, her arm dangled like she wasn't inside her body anymore. I tried to run to her, but a Coast Guard officer held me back. "Ma'am, stay here." "That's my daughter," I sobbed. "That's my baby. She's alive," he said, and then his eyes flicked away. "Barely, hypothermia, possible head injury." I saw the gash on her forehead then, the blood mixed with salt water, and something in me went utterly quiet, because I understood what had happened when she went over. She hadn't just hit water. She had hit something first. A cleat, a ladder, The metal edge of the stern, something hard meant to keep the yacht safe, had become the weapon that finished their shove. They loaded her onto the Coast Guard vessel. A medic pressed oxygen to her face. A radio crackled about a helicopter, and as they pulled away, I turned toward the yacht's glass doors. Inside, through the reflection of party lights, I saw Griffin standing with his father. Their heads close, their mouths moving, already building the lie. And I knew, with a clarity that shocked me, that if I didn't act now, they would bury this under money and smiles and legal language until my daughter became the crazy wife who jumped. My hands were still wet from the railing when I took out my phone. My fingers didn't shake anymore. I scrolled to one contact I hadn't called in years. My older brother, Alaric, the one who never raised his voice, who never wasted words, who had spent his career hunting men who thought power made them untouchable. He answered on the second ring. "Colette," he said, wary. "What's wrong?" I stared at the dark horizon, where my daughter's rescue boat had vanished, and I said the only 4 words that felt honest. "Time to end them." Alaric did not gasp. He did not swear. He did not ask me if I was sure. He just exhaled once, slow, like a man stepping into a room he already knows is on fire. "Where are you?" he asked. "My daughter is on a Coast Guard boat," I said. "They're taking her to the helicopter. I'm still on the yacht. They won't let me leave yet. They want statements." "Good," he said. "Stay. Do not get escorted off that boat. Do not let anyone separate you from the officers. Put your phone on speaker. Let me hear everything." I swallowed. "Alaric, they tried to stop me from throwing a life ring." "I know," he said, and his voice hardened. "Listen, you are going to keep breathing. You are going to speak in short sentences. You are going to describe actions, not feelings. And you are going to make sure the Coast Guard writes down who was standing where." Footsteps approached behind me, heavy ones, the kind that assume the world will move. Callahan appeared in the doorway with Griffin at his shoulder. They looked dry, warm, untouched. Griffin's hair was still perfect. Callahan's face was calm, almost offended, like my screaming had ruined the mood of his evening. A Coast Guard officer stepped between us, young, alert, trying to keep order on a deck full of money. "Ma'am," he said, "we need your statement now." I kept my phone pressed to my ear. "I'm ready," I said, and my voice surprised me. It was steady. It was cold. Griffin leaned against the doorframe and smiled like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Tell them she jumped," he said. "Be honest, Colette." I looked straight at him. "I am being honest." Callahan's gaze flicked to my phone. "Who are you calling?" he asked softly. "My brother," I said. His smile tightened, just for a second. "At a time like this, especially at a time like this," I answered. The officer guided me toward a small table near the rail, away from the guests who had started gathering again, whispering, filming, pretending they were shocked while still wanting to be entertained. Another officer opened a notebook, pen ready. "Start from the moment you saw her go over," he said. I took one breath. Then I spoke. "Griffin had her wrist," I said. "Callahan stood behind her. My daughter said she was pregnant. Griffin accused her of lying and trapping him. Then Griffin looked at Callahan. Callahan nodded. They both shoved her. Backward, over the railing. I ran. I threw a life ring. They told me she was being dramatic. They prevented me from doing more." The officer's eyes stayed on me, but I saw him flinch slightly at the word prevented. "What exactly did they do to prevent you?" he asked. "Griffin stepped in front of the life ring," I said. "Callahan tried to block me. He called it a private family matter." "And you're certain she didn't climb the rail herself?" he asked, careful. I felt heat surge up my throat. I forced it down. "I am certain," I said. I watched their hands push her shoulders and upper back. I watched her heels slide. I watched her eyes as she went over. She did not jump. Callahan's voice floated from behind me. "Officer, my daughter-in-law has been emotionally volatile for months. She's been seeking attention. We can provide medical records if necessary." Alaric's voice snapped in my ear, low and sharp. You heard it. That is their play. Mental instability, don't react, let them talk." The officer glanced at Callahan. "Sir, please step back." Callahan lifted his hands like the victim. "Of course," but Griffin stayed close. Eyes narrowed, studying my face as if searching for weakness he could press. When my statement was done, the officer asked the guests to identify themselves. Names, numbers, roles. A few people suddenly remembered they were tired or seasick, or that they left something downstairs. They slipped away. I noticed which ones did not leave. A deckhand with a tight jaw. A middle-aged woman in a shawl who looked like she hated everyone equally. A man in a navy blazer with the posture of someone who had served. Their eyes kept drifting to the stern rail, then back to Callahan, then to me. I held on to that. I held on to the fact that someone had seen. By the time the helicopter blades thumped into the distance, the air felt even colder, like the ocean itself had decided to punish everyone on that boat. They finally let me disembark at the marina. Callahan's driver was waiting with a black SUV, engine running. Griffin walked toward it like nothing had happened. I stepped in front of him, not close enough for him to touch me, but close enough that he had to see me. "Where's your wife's phone?" I asked. He blinked. "What?" "Her phone," I repeated. "Her purse, her shoes, her jacket, where are her things?" Griffin's smile was thin. "She probably dropped them before her little stunt." Callahan's hand settled lightly on Griffin's shoulder, an invisible leash. "Colette," Callahan said, gentle, "you should go to the hospital. This is not the time." I stared at him and felt something ugly in my chest. Not rage, not grief, something more focused. "This is exactly the time," I said. Alaric's voice came through my phone again. "Do not argue with them," he warned. "You will not win on the dock. You win in the paperwork. You win in the timing. Go to the hospital." I'm driving down now. The ride to the hospital felt unreal. The car smelled like leather and stale air freshener. My hands were still damp from the rail. Every time I blinked, I saw Waverly's face as she fell. At the emergency entrance, everything moved too fast. A nurse asked questions. A security guard directed me. A doctor spoke in clipped phrases that sounded like a foreign language made of fear. "She's alive," the doctor said. "Severe hypothermia, aspiration, possible concussion. We're stabilizing her. We need to monitor fetal distress." Fetal distress. The words landed like a stone. I sat in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights and tried to keep my breathing even. People walked past with coffee, with phones, with normal faces. I wanted to grab them and scream that the world should stop. Then the Whitmores arrived. They didn't rush. They didn't look frantic. They arrived like they were showing up to manage a situation, not mourn it. Two lawyers with perfect hair and calm smiles walked beside Callahan. Griffin trailed behind them, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning for cameras. One of the lawyers approached me, as if approaching a client. "Ms. Sullivan," he said, smooth. "I'm Reed Lawson. We represent the family. We are deeply concerned about Waverly's accident. We want to ensure everyone is aligned on the facts so misinformation does not spread." "Accident?" I didn't answer him. I looked at the nurse's station instead, forcing my face to remain neutral, forcing my hands to stay still in my lap. Reed kept going, because men like that hate silence. "We understand emotions are high," he said, "but we caution against inflammatory accusations. Senatorial families face unique scrutiny." I turned my head slowly and met his eyes. "My daughter was thrown into the ocean," I said. "At midnight, pregnant, and you are talking to me about scrutiny." His smile faltered a fraction, then returned. "Let's focus on her recovery." Griffin leaned in, voice low enough that only I could hear. "You're making this worse," he murmured. "You always hated my family. You're going to poison her against me." I felt my nails dig into my palm. I made my voice soft, almost polite. "If you come near her," I said, "I will scream so loudly this entire hospital will know what you did." His eyes flickered, annoyed, but he stepped back. Callahan watched the exchange with a calm, measuring gaze, like he was taking notes. Then Alaric arrived. I heard his boots before I saw him. Heavy steps, purposeful, a man who doesn't drift anywhere. He looked older than I remembered. More lines around his mouth, gray in his hair, but his eyes were the same as when we were kids and he'd catch someone lying. Sharp, unblinking, unimpressed. He walked straight past the Whitmores and their lawyers like they were furniture. He stopped in front of me and crouched slightly so his voice wouldn't carry. "Are you hurt?" he asked first. I shook my head. "Waverly." "I know," he said, and his hand squeezed my shoulder once firm. "Now listen, do not speak to their attorneys again. If police ask questions, you answer. If anyone else asks, you say nothing." Reed Lawson stepped forward, smile back in place. "Sir, I'm counsel for the family. We should coordinate given the circumstances." Alaric stood to his full height and looked down at him like a file he'd already closed. "No," Alaric said. "You should coordinate with your conscience." The lawyer's smile froze. Callahan lifted a hand, still calm. "Alaric, I know who you are. FBI correct. We don't need hostility. This was a misunderstanding." Alaric turned his head slowly toward Callahan. "Misunderstanding is forgetting a birthday," he said. "Not throwing a pregnant woman into the Atlantic." Callahan's eyes hardened for the first time. Not anger, calculation. Griffin shifted his weight, impatient, and I saw it again. That belief, that entitlement, that certainty that consequences were for other people. Alaric leaned closer to me. "I want to see her," he said. "They won't let anyone in yet," I whispered. "Then we wait," he said. "And while we wait, you tell me everything, every word you heard, every look you saw, what time you noticed them whispering, where each guest stood, which deckhand was on duty, everything." So I told him in a voice that never rose. I described the yacht like a diagram, the stern, the rail, the lighting, the way Callahan blocked her escape, the way Griffin looked to his father for approval. The moment the shove happened, Alaric listened like a man, building a case brick by brick. Then he asked the question that made my stomach drop. "Did Waverly have her phone on her?" he asked. "Yes," I said instantly. "She always keeps it in her clutch." "Where is the clutch?" he asked. I stared at him. "I don't know." Griffin acted like it vanished. Alaric nodded once. Of course he did. A nurse approached then, holding a clear plastic bag of personal belongings. Wet fabric, a bracelet, a single shoe. My breath caught when I saw it. Waverly's clutch. The nurse set it on the counter. "This came with her," she said. "It was wedged under her arm when the rescue team lifted her. We put everything in a bag." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was her wallet, a lipstick, a tiny folded ultrasound photo, damp at the edges, and her phone. The screen was black. Salt water had crusted the edges. I pressed the button anyway. Nothing. My chest collapsed. I tasted metal in my mouth. Alaric took it from me gently, like it was evidence already. He turned it over, studying the ports, the case. "She used a waterproof sleeve," he said quietly. I blinked. "What?" He pointed to the thin, clear seal around it. "This is a marine pouch. People use them on boats. It might have power issues, but the internals could be intact." I looked up at him, hope stabbing through my numbness so sharply it almost hurt. Alaric's eyes stayed on the phone. "If she hit record," he said, voice low, "they just handed us the truth." Alaric didn't celebrate. He didn't even smile. He slid the phone into his jacket like it was fragile glass. "Do not tell anyone we have this," he murmured. "Not the nurses, not the cops, not even the doctor, especially not them." I nodded, throat tight. Across the waiting room, Callahan was watching us with the stillness of a man who never misses a detail. Griffin had moved to the windows, pretending to stare out at the city, but his reflection in the glass kept flicking back toward me. A nurse called my name and led me down a hall that smelled like disinfectant and stale coffee. My shoes squeaked on the floor. I hated that sound. It felt too normal. When I finally saw Waverly, I almost didn't recognize her. She was wrapped in warming blankets, tubes and wires everywhere, her lips pale, her eyelashes clumped from salt and tears. A bruise bloomed at her temple like a dark flower. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, controlled breaths. I moved to her bedside and took her hand. It felt cold even under the blankets, like the ocean had left part of itself inside her. "Sweetheart," I whispered. "I'm here." Her eyelids fluttered. The monitor beeped faster. A sound caught in her throat, half sob, half gasp. "Mom," she rasped. I leaned down until my forehead almost touched hers. "Don't talk, just look at me." Her eyes filled instantly. She tried to lift her hand, but it trembled and fell back. "They pushed me," she whispered. "I said I was pregnant. I thought maybe he'd change." My stomach turned. I pressed her hand gently, careful of the IV. "I saw," I said, voice steady even as my chest cracked open. "You're safe now." Her gaze drifted past me toward the doorway. Fear flashed so sharp it made my breath hitch. "Is he here?" "No," I lied because truth would have shattered her. "He's not here." The doctor came in then, a tired woman with kind eyes. She explained injuries in calm medical language, but I heard only two words over and over. Fetal viability. They were monitoring. They didn't know yet. I sat by Waverly's bed as the hours crawled. Alaric stayed in the hallway, a quiet shadow, watching who came and went. Late afternoon, 2 detectives arrived. Massachusetts State Police, crisp suits, polite voices. They asked me to repeat my statement. I did. Short sentences, actions, times, positions, hands. The detectives wrote everything down. Then one of them asked, carefully, "Mrs. Sullivan, do you have any evidence beyond testimony?" I looked at Alaric in the hall. He shook his head, almost invisible. "Not yet." "We will," I said. "We will." That night, Callahan tried to take control of the hospital, the way he took control of everything else. He brought a private security man who hovered near the ICU entrance like he belonged there. He brought food for the nurses, expensive catered trays, the kind of gift that buys softness. Griffin arrived with flowers and a pained expression that looked practiced in the mirror. I watched him through the glass as he spoke to a nurse. his hands open, gentle, harmless. Alaric stepped in before I could. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You don't enter," he said. Griffin's expression stayed polite. "That's my wife. She's your victim," Alaric replied. Callahan appeared behind Griffin like a second spine. "This hostility is unnecessary," he said. "We want reconciliation. We want healing." Alaric's eyes didn't move. "Then start by leaving." Callahan's gaze shifted, finally landing on me through the glass. His face softened into something almost fatherly, and it made my skin crawl. "Colette," he called gently, "you're exhausted. Grief makes people irrational. Let's talk privately." I stood up slowly and walked out into the hall, keeping the glass between me and my daughter. "I have nothing to say to you," I told him. He lowered his voice like we were sharing a secret. "You're a counselor. You understand what happens when a young woman spirals. She has been under stress. She made a choice. Now you're trying to turn it into an attack. She didn't choose the ocean," I said. Callahan's smile barely moved. "There's a narrative you can't fight. Griffin is loved, respected. People will believe what makes sense to them." Alaric stepped closer. "You mean they'll believe what you pay them to believe?" Callahan didn't deny it. He just tilted his head. "I mean you'll lose, and your daughter will lose. You can take a settlement, a generous one. You can go home. You can let her recover in peace." The word settlement made my vision blur with anger. "You threw her away," I said. "And now you're offering money like it's a tissue for a wound you caused." Callahan's eyes sharpened, the softness dropping for a second. "Be careful," he warned, quiet. "You don't know what you're stepping into." Alaric's voice was flat. "We know exactly." Callahan studied him. "FBI retirement didn't teach you to let go." Alaric didn't blink. "It taught me to wait." Callahan turned away first. Griffin followed, jaw tight. When they left, I realized my hands were shaking. Not from fear, from the effort of staying quiet. Alaric guided me to an empty family room. He closed the door and finally pulled the phone out. "It's at a clean lab now," he said. "A friend of mine, not official, not yet, he owes me." I sat hard in a chair. "What if it's dead?" Alaric's expression didn't change. "Then we use witnesses, we use timing. But if it's alive, Colette, it changes everything." Hours later, Waverly's nurse came in with eyes that looked too gentle. I knew before she spoke. "I'm so sorry," she said softly. "The pregnancy, she miscarried." The room went silent, like the world had sucked all sound out of itself. My mouth opened, but nothing came. I walked back into the ICU and stared at my daughter, still wrapped in blankets, still fighting to live, and I felt something inside me go from pain to purpose. Alaric stood beside me, hand on my shoulder, steady. "That," he said quietly, "is what they bought with their arrogance." The next morning, the lab called. Alaric put it on speaker. A man's voice, calm and technical. "The phone was in a sealed marine pouch," the man said. "Saltwater didn't reach the internals. The power was gone, but the storage is fine. There is a video file." My knees went weak. Alaric's voice stayed controlled. "What's on it?" "A recording from the stern deck," the man replied. "Audio is clear. Video is dark, but the deck lights caught silhouettes. You can hear her voice. You can hear the argument. You can hear the shove. You can hear the splash." I covered my mouth with my hand, so I wouldn't make a sound that Waverly could hear. Alaric closed his eyes once, like a man marking the end of a long chase. "Send it," he said. Within hours, the detectives returned. This time they weren't polite. They were urgent. They watched the video in a small room off the ICU, faces pale as the audio played. Waverly's voice, trembling but clear, saying she was pregnant. Griffin's voice, sharp, accusing her of trapping him. Callahan's voice, calm, telling her not to make a scene. Then the sound of movement, a gasp, a cut-off scream, and the splash. One detective paused it and stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "This is attempted murder," he said. "Yes," I replied. "It is." They left to get warrants. Real ones, not the kind money could soften. That afternoon, Callahan returned to the hospital with 3 more lawyers and a man who introduced himself as a public relations advisor. Griffin kept close behind them, his face pale now, eyes darting. He knew. Somehow he knew the ground was shifting. They tried again, softer, faster. Callahan pulled me aside near the elevators, voice urgent but controlled. "You have no idea what you're doing to her future," he said. "To your future, this will be public, it will be messy, it will follow her forever." I stared at him and felt nothing but clarity. "It should follow you," I said. Griffin's mask cracked then. "You're going to ruin me over a misunderstanding," he hissed. "She overreacted. She slipped. She always slips into drama." I leaned in close enough that he could see my eyes. "My daughter survived 3 hours in the Atlantic," I said softly. You won't survive the truth for 3 days. 2 uniformed officers appeared at the end of the hall. Then 2 more. Then a detective with a folder in his hand. Callahan's posture changed instantly. He went from owner of the room to man in a room he didn't control. "Gentlemen," Callahan said smoothly, "there must be some mistake." "No mistake," the detective said. "Griffin Whitmore, you're under arrest for attempted murder and assault. Charles Whitmore, you're under arrest for attempted murder, assault, and obstruction." Griffin's face drained of color. Callahan's eyes snapped to me, cold now, stripped of charm. "Colette," he said like a warning. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched. Griffin tried to argue. His lawyers stepped forward. The officers didn't care. The handcuffs clicked, bright and final. As they led Griffin away, he twisted his head toward me, eyes wild. "You think you won," he spat. "You think you're safe." Alaric stepped into his line of sight. "She's safe," Alaric said. "You're finished." The trials took months. They dragged. They tried to paint Waverly as unstable, emotional, dramatic. The video shredded that lie every time it played in court. Witnesses came forward once the fear broke. A deckhand who admitted he saw Griffin's hands. A guest who admitted Callahan told people it was a private matter and they should go downstairs. Callahan's money bought delays, not freedom. Waverly sat beside me during the verdict, her hair grown back in soft curls where they had shaved a patch to treat the head injury. She held my hand so tightly my fingers ached. When the jury foreman said guilty, Waverly didn't cry. She just exhaled long, like she had been holding her breath since the night she hit the water. After sentencing, Waverly filed for divorce. She kept her maiden name. She sold the wedding ring, not for revenge, but for closure, and donated every dollar to a nonprofit that helps women leave quietly before violence becomes a headline. We still have dinner every Sunday. Sometimes we talk about ordinary things, grocery prices, a movie we liked, a neighbor's new dog. Sometimes we sit in silence, and that silence isn't fear anymore. It's peace. And every time I look at my daughter, alive, breathing, stubbornly rebuilding, I remember the ocean trying to take her. And I remember something else too. They threw her off a yacht at midnight and called her dramatic. But the only drama that mattered was the sound of those handcuffs closing in a hospital hallway.